Hey guys, MeLikeBigBoom here, and welcome to a news video in regards to Unturned 3.0 and 4.0. This last Friday, we got a very small update. At the time, considering how small that update was, I was considering leaving that be and saving it for the next week's update. However, today we got more information regarding Unturned 4.0, specifically the gunplay that was discussed 2 weeks ago, and we got videos, we got descriptions, we get to see our first footage of Unturned 4.0 in development, and it is some pretty exciting stuff. So today I'd like to combine Friday's update with today's information in one full news video regarding Unturned. To start, Unturned 3.21.2, which came out 2 days ago on November 10th, we got a very interesting item added to the game. The ID is 1510 and it is chewing gum. Minty fresh, will leave your breath smelling hot, hot, hot. Yes, chewing gum, a new item added to the game. Well, there's a little bit more to it. It's not just a food item that's been added to the game. Well, it is a food item, but there's a little bit more to this chewing gum than your standard chewing gum. So, let's say you're playing on a roleplay server and you come across somebody that you don't like. Well, you give them this chewing gum and you tell them to eat it, and it's explosive chewing gum. Now, see, that's one way of handling it. Explosive chewing gum, yada yada. You can use it to kill somebody that you don't like. But of course, eventually everybody's going to know not to eat the chewing gum. So it's kind of pointless in that regard. However, I think this is Nelson's clever and child-friendly way of creating suicide bombers. Okay, so I know that some people have been asking for suicide vests, and it's kind of a weird thing to do. I think Nelson released chewing gum as a way to turn your character into a suicide bomber. I mean, let's say you come across a base, you knock on the door, they let you inside, you befriend them, but in reality you don't like them, and then when they're not looking, you're just like, whoopah! I mean, boom, everyone's dead in the base. And so, you know, there's some ideas. Well, anyway, that was basically everything that was added in 3.21.2 this last Friday, believe it or not. Just the explosive chewing gum, some pretty interesting items, as I said earlier, a really strange item. But with that out of the way, now we can move on to what I think you're probably waiting the most for, and that is the gunplay videos for Unturned 4.0, the first footage that we have of Unturned 4.0. Now, you may have already known on November 3rd's update, Nelson put a little snippet in the bottom of his update post talking about gunplay for Unturned 4.0 and how he just got it working, how you can see parts in the guns like the charging handle move when you pull them, and seeing the dropped magazine fall from the gun, things like that. Now we get to actually see that in person with a blog post that he posted on blog.smartlydressedgames.com. The link to this will be in the description down below if you'd like to read it in its entirety. He has 2 videos showing how the gunplay looks and performs both in first person and in third person. Nelson starts off saying that this is the first of hopefully many looks into the development of Unturned 4.0. He says everything is still very bare bone, but the basic shooting gameplay is starting to take shape as seen in these 2 videos. Now, before we get into this, please note that all of these assets are placeholders and works in progress, and nothing is off the table in regards to improvement. For example, the crosshair will most likely be used only for shotguns and not automatic rifles like you see here, and yes, all of the visual issues will be fixed up. Now we can move on to the actual video itself. I'll play it here. Some pretty exciting stuff. Now, I don't know about you, but that is really cool. Now, I'll play this again in slow motion so that we can see some of the details closer. Starting off, you can see that the charging handle is actually physically getting pulled back, whereas in Unturned 3.0, it's just the hands are moving and nothing is actually moving on the gun. This time, when he equips the gun, he pulls that charging handle back. When he shoots, you can see those bullet casings not only coming out of the gun, but also bouncing off the floor with rattling sounds. There's also first-person free look, which in other games you usually hold Alt and you can look around your character while running in a single direction. This is incredibly useful for, if, for example, you're running away from something. You can still run in one direction away from the danger, but still be able to hold Alt and move your head around to look behind you. In this case, he's using it to look at those shell casings drop on the floor. Really cool looking. As he looks back at the gun, take note of the meshed clothing. Instead of it being a texture applied on your character like in Unturned 3.0, all clothing items are 3D items. You can see he has gloves equipped and they have ridges on them. They have three-dimensionality to them. Same with his clothes. You can see that his shirt actually has some thickness to it. Now with shirts, this is going to be relatively basic, but imagine things like sweatshirts where the hoodie actually is a 3D item that's sitting on their shoulders, or like with tuxedos, you'll be able to see that the jacket is over the top of an undershirt. Things like that, bringing a little bit more detail to an otherwise simple game. Other things worth noting, there are first-person shadows. You can see that the wall that's behind the character is casting a shadow on the character's hands. Also to take note of, while he's shooting, the muzzle flashes are three-dimensional and every single one is unique. When it comes to reloading, you can see that he's actually holding a magazine and putting it inside the gun, which sounds pretty basic, but it's nice to finally have it in Unturned. And overall, just an awesome improvement over what we have in Unturned 3.0. I am super excited to see how all the guns uniquely behave. You can imagine with these same kind of features, things like pistols will have the slide go back as you shoot them, or with snipers, you'll be able to see him pull the bolt back, and also with equipping and de-equipping attachments, you'll be able to see your character actually put the scope on the gun, or screw the suppressor onto the tip of the barrel. Lots of super cool things. In the second video, Nelson is shooting the same gun except without a suppressor on it, and is shooting in third person, so you can see what the character and the gun looks like from an outside perspective. Very cool. Some of the things that you can see in this video is that the chamber is actually sliding back when he is shooting the gun. When he reloads, the magazine is not only falling out of the gun, but also falling on the ground as a physical object. There's also third-person free look in the same way that there's first-person free look. As you can see, he's shooting the gun, but he's also looking around his character. This will also be useful if you're running away from someone and want to turn around without letting the person chasing you know that you can see him. Also, with his face, it's a vector graphic. You can see his smile is actually a curved line rather than just a whole bunch of pixels. This will also make room for a whole lot more faces that we can have in Unturned 4.0. Very cool. And lastly, higher quality audio, which I think all of us can tell after the first viewing. The gun sounds are more unique. I think audio has been a huge area needing improvement in the Unturned series, and I think it's awesome to see it finally touched upon in Unturned 4.0. Nelson says that for the initial development of Unturned 4.0, he's decided to focus on character gameplay and item features with the aim of a public multiplayer combat test in the coming months. He wants Unturned 4.0 to be more geared towards survival and PvE rather than the average Unturned 3.0 server, which is kind of PvP, so this may seem counterintuitive, but he thinks these are some of the core complex features of the game that everything else is built upon. So not only can we expect more development posts within the next few months, perhaps in a couple of months we will actually be able to play some of Unturned 4.0 to test out this gunplay firsthand. Now, at the moment, Unturned 4.0 has single-player, local split-screen co-op, hosting as a player and hosting on dedicated servers, and there are a few other features working like sliding or diving while sprinting, but the first and third person shooting is what he's most comfortable showing for now. Now with Unturned 3.0, he was rushing for the initial release and had basically 2 months to put together the editor, multiplayer, initial gameplay, and that rush continued after the first beta, which made the foundation of the game a lot less stable, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of that. This time around, Nelson's been taking it slow with a focus on quality over quantity, features getting rewritten multiple times, deleting all the animations for the sake of redoing the character skeleton, etc. So, essentially, you can expect Unturned 4.0 to run a little bit better than Unturned 3.0, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be happy to hear. Anyway, that was basically everything in Unturned's 4.0 devlog number 1, the first devlog we've gotten for Unturned 4.0. Hopefully there's a lot more to come, lots of exciting stuff already. Be sure to comment your guys' thoughts and opinions and suggestions regarding what you guys saw today. But other than that, that is all I have for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and do all that gibberish because MeLikeBigBoom is out.